Okay, looks like we are on the air, and thank you all for attending. What I'm going to cover today, again, is obviously ending all homosexuality on Earth and establishing a sacred planet. The point to be made is that we need to be established as a sacred planet. And we're not. There we go. That works a lot better. All right. So the process is that by ending homosexuality, we will establish a sacred planet. Because you don't know that homosexuality is a demon. And when the demon enters the body of a human being in homosexuality, it opens up to the conquest of every desire a person has. So basically, they're taking on the direct personality complex of Satan. Satan is a homosexual, extremely lustful, extremely crazy ass person. And in that process, the satanic view of things is the homosexual view of things, which is pride. And it needs dominion because it's a demon. Yeah. And that dominion is the process that all of humanity is going through, is the transition, of the dominion that is manifested by the demon homosexual that's in the body. And people are not able to deal with it. They have no idea that this is what's going on. None. Zero. Yeah. And this is the process. At least 417 anti-LGBT bills have been introduced to state legislators across the United States over the last year. And what they're up against is the process of the homosexual demon. The demon doesn't think like a human being. Not at all. A demon feels that every person must be possessed by demons. Every person must be possessed by demons. So if you're not going to be gay, then you have to become an ally to gays. When you do that, the gay demon enters your body. And that doesn't take that long for that demon to begin manifestation during the time that Christ is on earth. Because I'm doing exorcisms. So it will increase this process to externalize, show itself. And everybody has to react. And the demon doesn't expect people to react. Because the demon has been using so many different variety of ways to break down human consciousness and understanding in relationship to God and Jesus Christ, that it's created such an avarice energetic field that today Jesus Christ is thought to be a hateful being, because he knows that homosexuals are demons, filled with demons inside. When you're filled with demons inside, you become a demon. And once you're a demon, for quite a while, they're trying to get these homosexuals to influence the quality of condition inside of children and babies so that their gender will be swapped or completely confused. So they want you to give hormone blockers to babies. And their focus isn't on the girls as much as the boys. Odd. But that is the focus. And the reason why that is because they want to make as many boys as possible to be transgender. As many possible. If that happens, it only takes 4 or 5 generations for the entire human race to end. That's a hard one to swallow, to understand that it really is what goes on. The process that we have inside of humanity is a process that's being created through a cult. And you have no idea that your culture is a living cult. A living cult. Homosexuals everywhere. Transgenders everywhere. Lesbians. Men dressed up as women, wearing makeup and dresses, running the government. That's America today. Imagine pretty much everything we got going on is under this influence. Pretty much everything. Not a smaller part, but everything. Yeah? Check this out.
We're not at war with Target. We're not at war with Budweiser. We are at war with principalities. I don't believe that a person's gender can be decided. I also believe what the biology teaches. If I am forced just so you don't get your feelings hurt, my freedom is taken away. Things are more spiritual than they seem. If you think this is about the flag, the alphabet community, in fact, the person that designed the clothing that Target got a lot of backlash for, on his Instagram, he said this: Satan respects pronouns is a fun way to show your pride. When that gets imposed on us, and when pastors are no longer allowed to talk about that because they quickly get threatened or penalized, that is where the problem is. Things are more spiritual. There are demonic forces. Why is that? Even on that image of Satan respects pronouns, you see Ouija boards, you see occultic practices. Why? It's because the devil is more behind it than you realize it.
And that's a fact. And you all need to come to fully realize this. Yeah, and it's affecting your brains. Even the smartest people in the world, every single person in the world is affected by this process. Yeah. And it's adding into it an increased reality of delusions like QAnon. Yeah. Or everybody, needs to accept transgender because we have multiple genders. Yeah, as though that's real. Yeah, because we can't tell the difference between an illusion and a delusion and mental illness. We can't do it. We're not in that place, let alone being a spiritual planet, being a sacred planet. We're not sacred. So we could do harm, real harm, real harm. And we do. Yeah. All the past is based on an enormous amount of harm that is manifested in the world. So through our past, we can see, even in the making of food or the making of automobiles, people are screaming crazy. Oh no, automobiles don't do anything. They're not negative. They have no negative effect on humanity. You can say all you want, but once these cars are gone and we stop using the fossil fuel, and we're working on solar, and other forms of developing electricity and storage, making it free, basically free. We're not funding Arabs. We're not funding Russia. We're not funding evil people that want to dig into the earth, not knowing whether or not it will have catastrophic, disastrous earth outcomes. What happens when you take gazillions of tons of oil out of the earth in pockets? What, does it just deflate? The pressure pushed on it? Do you think it'll collapse? Is it a large cavern full of oil? Once you take it out, it is. What's going to happen? What is that oil for? Is that supposed to help the plates move? You know, we're on plates. The whole earth is separated by plates. And we have water under the earth. We have oil under the earth for a reason. It's there for a reason. And we have no idea what that reason is. And we take it out. We have no idea what effect it's having. In New Zealand, they had an experience. They decided to do geothermal. Dig down deep. Tap in to the boiling water. Bring it back up. And use that for electricity. Won't do anything. Earthquakes in that area increased 200%. 200%. The monastery is located in an area of Kelseyville, Northern California. Right next to it is one of the largest geothermal plants in America. And it provides electricity for all of San Francisco, major portion of Northern California. But if you look, there is more seismic activity and earthquakes around that location, at least 300 or 400 times more than any other location, because of the drilling, because of the geothermal plant. So we're here causing eruptions, and we're pulling oil out, and we're using all the water under in order to water almond trees and rice. You know, in the San Joaquin Valley of California, where it's dry as shit. And the water under there is for a reason. It's not for almonds, and it's not for rice. It's for the earth. It's nature. It's geophysical nature. When you mess with that, you will increase geophysical disaster. That could cause earth warming, all these things that we're complaining about, and add it up. You know, here now we got all this oil, we throw it into cars, we get all this pollution, we throw it in, you know, into the atmosphere, we have this problem. And you're paying $5 a gallon for gas. Now imagine, as time goes on, all this is taken away because of me. It's taken away. And every vehicle you get is electric, and you're going, I can't handle it. In your mind, you're doing that right now because you've never had an electric car. And you're going, oh, my pickup truck is the best in the world, you know, how am I going to deal with an electric pickup truck, you know, it just never, you know, it can only do 40 miles, it doesn't have any power, it can't do the things I want to do. Yeah. But you have no idea what is coming. And here the F-150 comes and it's identical to an F-150. There is no difference, except that it has an electric motor and it's 10 times faster. It costs you 1/3 the fuel. That's an incredible savings every year. And it provides electricity to all your work tools and everything you can think of. You didn't know that was coming. You can only see the darkness from the veil of not knowing anything. All you know is vroom vroom, big tires, and gas hogs or diesel. That's all you know, and that's all you've been told, and that's all you had. But as I take all this away, the earth will get clean. You'll learn about geothermal. You'll learn what causes earthquakes and how to slow them down. You can do this. Yeah, and we're going to do this. Yeah. You'll learn the bad mistakes that are planned right now by mentally ill people who are extremely rich, like Elon Musk. He honestly thinks you're going to go to Mars. Yep, you're going to go to Mars, and so many of you are going to go to Mars that you're going to colonize. Yeah. And he figures, well, you know, you're going to have to volunteer. Yeah, there's no paycheck in going to Mars because it's going to cost too much to get you there. Yeah, you're just going to be slaves. That's it. And you're probably not going to live. What? Is that real?
I don't, to be clear, I don't want to die on Mars. It's like, we're all going to die someday. And if you're going to pick some place to die, then why not Mars? You know, if we're born on Earth, why not die on Mars? Seems like maybe it'd be kind of exciting. But so I think, given the choice of dying on Earth or dying on Mars, I'd say, yeah, sure, I'll die on Mars. But it's not some kind of Mars death wish. And if I do die on Mars, I just don't want it to be on impact.
So what he's not explaining is that you're going to die on Mars. You go to Mars, you're going to die on Mars. Think about it. It takes you about 8 months to a year to get to Mars. Okay, you're deteriorated, but no gravity. Yeah. Now, everybody who's ever spent a year in space, when they come back, they can't walk. They can't walk. Period. There's no special person on this planet that has the ability to walk after a year of no gravity. Nobody. You had to be carried out of the ship. You had to be carried out of the ship. You had to be put on a gurney and taken to a hospital where you spend 2 to 3 months in recovery as your body inflates with all kinds of inflammatory conditions in your lymph glands, in your organs, everywhere throughout your body, in every aspect of your body. It's all swollen because of the amount of lack of gravity. And the blood pressure goes to your head rather than your body. Yeah, imagine 1 year in flight. And when you get there, you have to get out and get to work. You have to work right away. Yeah. There's no ambulance to pick you up. There's no crew to help you out. There's no hospital to go to. Nothing. Yeah. All it is reality. And what is reality? Reality is that every other astronaut that's gone into space for a year or less, even only 6 months, has to be carried out of the ship because they can't walk. And that's a fact. Just how it is. You can move in space. You can continue moving all the time because there's no gravity. Nothing's keeping you from falling down. Your muscles are, getting more dormant and more dormant and more dormant every day. Your circulation through your body is interrupted beyond belief. That's just traveling in space. And you get there and you have to work. No. You're going to get there and you're going to die. You're going to die. After you get there, you will die. And if you live, it's going to be hell. Because if you get through 6 months sitting on that spacecraft because you can't get out of it, and you're recovering, and finally you're the first person who can stand up and walk, put a spacesuit on and go outside, what are you going to do? You're going to try and stay alive and wait for recovery, which will take an average of 2 years. So you'll probably be mentally insane by that time if you're still alive. Now, I mean, the reality is that you're going to die. That's the reality. There's no colonies. There's no minerals or anything on Mars that we need for anything. And he's saying, what if something bad goes on Earth and we need another planet? Well, Mars isn't it. Mars is not it.
If a resupply mission fails for whatever reason, you're potentially looking at a more than 2-year delay of supplies, not to mention the risk of something going wrong during landing. Now recently the rate of failure for Mars missions seems to be lower, but compared to a Mars colony, those are very simple missions where you aren't trying to land years worth of supplies or actual colonists. For me, this would mean sending twice or even 3 times the amount of needed supplies at the same time for a Mars colony, with separate transportation just in case 1 or even 2 of them crash lands or something. Of course, cargo can stay in space for longer, so I can imagine you could also pre-launch a whole lot of cargo ships, even outside of the launch window, in a way that they would reach Mars at predetermined times. But this is still suboptimal. Unmanned missions can afford the risk of failure, manned missions cannot. Nothing.
So the truth is, yeah, we're going to go to Mars. And we're going to investigate Mars. And we're going to use robots, not humans. Not humans. Yep. But our process is that we're moved by these rich people. And they move masses of people into cult-like realities. And there are an enormous number of people right now who honestly believe that they're going to go to Mars. This happened before. Another really rich guy, yeah, put out a thing to where he wanted people to sign up and go to Mars. And they are not returning. That is his guarantee. You're not returning. You're going to colonize. You're going to colonize. Yeah? So what happened was that many of those people are married and their wives don't want to go and they got children. So they end up in divorce and they never go to Mars. They're only on a select committee. So this ruined thousands of people's lives and marriages last time when this went on. This isn't the first time. It's the second time. But no one talks about this. And it's the truth. Look it up. Go online. Look it up. But there are better ideas. Yeah. There are places that we could go. Things that we could do. Yeah. But what would be the best outcome for our work? Yeah. I helped to develop the space program so I could land mankind on the moon for a reason. I helped to develop the reality of mankind being explorers in space and to have a space station for scientific investigation about space. I helped to develop, the imagination, through 2001: A Space Odyssey and on, that got satellites into space and got us onto the moon. But it's not over. My program of space exploration has been held back due to an enormous governmental delusion. People who thought space exploration was not worthwhile. A man named Mondale. He was the vice president. And he was in charge of NASA's financial process. And he blocked it. And it pushed him to where they had to start on the shuttle to turn it into a business. of taking satellites into space and safely putting them into orbit, and be able to return the shuttle back and forth as a business of putting satellites into space. Necessary. Yeah, we needed to do that. It's only part of what we needed to do. And we also got the space program developed for Space Lab. And that developed. But we're going back to the moon, not Mars. And for a reason, so that we can continue space exploration. It's a perfect place.
In 2025, it is the turn of Chang'e 7, which will land near the lunar south pole with a lander and a rover assisted
This is
by
what
an orbiter.
is,
The
in
purpose
reality,
is to find water and look
happening.
for lava tubes where to build an underground base. By the end of the decade, even the first Chinese astronauts will descend onto the moon. However, science is not the only reason to go to the moon. It is likely that private companies such as Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin will begin transporting mega-rich people into Earth orbit in the early 20s. 2025, SpaceX's crew starship Dear Moon flies around the moon with Yusaku Maezawa and 8 selected crew members on board. 2025 to 2028. In the years following the first landing, several lunar starships land on the rim of the Shackleton crater to establish the first human outposts on the moon, Artemis Base Camp. For the time being, it's only temporarily inhabited. Artemis Base Camp is the prospective lunar base that was proposed to be established
This
at the
is
end of the
real.
2020s. It would consist
is
of 3 main
happening.
modules: the foundational surface habitat, the habitable mobility platform, and the lunar terrain vehicle. It would support missions of up to 2 months and be used to study technologies to use on Mars. 2026. Meanwhile, assembly of the Lunar Orbital Platform Gateway begins in orbit. The station consists of a series of modules designed for habitation and experimentation, and provides a sort of spaceport where spacecraft can be refueled and resupplied. 2028. Russian space agency Roscosmos launched the Luna 28 rover to Moon's South Pole for a return sample mission. However, it is not yet clear how Russia will move in the complex chessboard of lunar conquest. Will it go alone or together with China? 2029. The Lunar Orbital Station is completed and inaugurated by a SpaceX Falcon 12 that docks an unoccupied lunar lander. A week later, a giant Space Launch System rocket brings an Orion spacecraft aboard the station, with astronauts inside. 3 astronauts transferred to the lander and descend to the lunar surface. After their sortie on the moon, they return to the orbital station, where the crew boards the Orion for the trip home. 2029. On the occasion of the 60th anniversary of the Apollo 11 landing, private flights with the circumnavigation of the moon were organized. Tickets for a single space tourist can cost up to $5 million. 2029. Following up on a vague agreement announced in 2021, China and Russia formalized their joint commitment to build the International Lunar Research Station, also located near the lunar South Pole. 2030. Artemis Base Camp is permanently inhabited. 2031. ESA renounces for the moment its idea to build the Moon Village, a base open to all nations. It will continue to support the Artemis project. 2033. A joint China-Russia.
So this is reality. Reality. Not a one-man reality. This is the group that I'm involved with. The whole Earth. Russia, China, Japan, Europe, America. We're a group. We're not what people think. It's not about rich people or a government. It's a group. And that's how we become a sacred planet. We all cooperate together. And we seek these really high goals. And we make plans and we fulfill them. Now, I just showed you countries that are putting everything into the space program. And they're going to the moon. And they have schedules. That means they have the rockets being built and the space astronauts being trained, and everything is on mission. And nothing has to do with the colonization of Mars. It has to do with exploration. Exploration. We'll find that we can build and get fuel on the moon and establish bases on the moon rather than on Earth. And that's how we get around. We don't have to struggle with all the rocket fuel it takes to go from Earth's surface to outer atmosphere and into no gravity whatsoever. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of power. That requires everything. And that's not the way it's going to be. We're going to transfer all of that to the moon. And we could do the building there. Everything. And because it's being done in space and not in a physical way like we do here, which wears things down, destroys things, wipes them out. But when you're in space, things can last for extremely long. And in the world that we're in today, where we're developing modular engineering technologies, everything can be upgraded modularly and through software. So building on the moon makes all the sense in the world. For space travel, for exploration, Venus, Mars, Saturn, everywhere. But we do that robotically, as we are now. That's truth. That's truth. Not out of the mind of Elon Musk or anybody else who's saying we got to go to Mars and we have to do all these things, and we don't have to do anything. We can be led in chaos dramatically. Elon Musk has a lot of problems. And the world has a lot of problems. And one of the biggest problems we have is transgender, homosexuality. It bleeds into your soul. It makes you dumb. Makes you do stupid things and believe that they're the right thing to do. You actually believe in it. That's what the demon does. And it may not be that person's fault. It could be someone in your family who becomes transgender. And that affects you. That's what happened to Elon Musk. He's not gay. But he has a son who is. He decided to be a girl. Really screwed up Elon's brain, coping with that kind of thing. They have no relationship. Because it's just, he doesn't see it. He knows that there's only two genders. And all of society is supporting it. You know, so it's deeply affecting a person who is affecting the entire world. And leaves him in a mental, deluded state. Got to go to Mars. And any other engineer, and we're not just saying these are limitations, we shouldn't do it. What we're saying is that there's no need to do it. If you put people on Mars and colonize 100 people, think of that as the Arctic. And you go to the Arctic. What happens when you go to the Arctic? Yeah. You don't see dark ever. And it is freezing cold out. Yeah. You do not breathe normal air outside. You have to stay inside all the time. All the time. And that process leads to mental illness. insomnia, anxiety, high blood pressure, you name it. It just peaks. To be in service in the Antarctica is one of the most dangerous situations we can do as a human being, being in service, having a job. That's one of the most dangerous. Now, take those very same conditions and take a person to Mars. Well, the radiation is so high because there's no atmosphere. And there's no electromagnetic field. So there's no human wave that pulses through your body that you do require in order to stay balanced, emotionally, mentally balanced. And there is none. Zero. Yep. And there's radiation higher than you could ever imagine. And there's nothing to block it. No electromagnetic field, which we have on Earth. No atmosphere, which we have on Earth. Nothing. So you can't take a blow-up building because you can. It will be bombarded by radiation and you will die of many multiple cancers. So you have to build something really thick and dense, which leaves you to absolute darkness. You're likely to dig underground if you go to Mars and live underground. That is likely where you will end up. Now, that's a lot worse than the Antarctica. And you can't go outside without a suit, a major suit. And if anything goes wrong with that suit, you die. So the level of your own emotional anxiety is at its highest state, no matter who you are. And you're going to die from that. There's no doubt about it. You're going to suffer a major heart attack, an illness, a stroke, high blood pressure, you name it. We do it here. It'll happen there earlier. You won't come back. Yeah. If it's a planned mission where you go to explore, and there's no reason to do this. Yep, you could do robots and get the same information without endangering a person's life. Yeah, when many times when we send a probe to land on the Mars, they crash. All of Europe's crashed. Most other places have crashed. And yet we want to send human beings? It's a very, very hostile atmosphere coming in to the ground, landing. The winds could be hundreds of miles an hour. You have no idea. They just come up. Yeah, it's not a place you go. It's not a place you go. But that's reality. That's reality. So there are a lot of people who know that reality, and NASA's one of them. NASA's never sent anybody to Mars, and they have no intention of sending people to Mars unless it's absolutely part of an exploratory situation where they found reason to send people to Mars. And they would have a backup to where they'd go. The system of getting there would be gravitational. In other words, they would have a rotational spaceship that would go in rotation, going around and around and around, a circular orb. And people would be on the outside of that circular orb as the spaceship traveled through space. And they would be in a normal, regular gravitational field. So by the time they get to, Mars, they will not suffer what they will suffer not having that. And that has to be done. There's no other way of doing it. You can't fake it by exercise and pushing pressure against your bones and all that. That's what they've tried, and it never works. So you have to have an actual normal gravitational field going on at all times. At all times. Yeah, which is what we don't have. We have nothing like that. So we're not ready to go to Mars. Yeah, we would have to, let the people go who we are sending there, knowing that this is just a a one-way trip, and you're only going to live maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years. That's not really exploration. It's not science. It's not anything that we're interested in doing. It's not the new group of world servers' way of doing things. Yeah, we're interested in getting science and exploration into space. And the reason for that is because it advances technologies very quickly. And we want to advance. The new group of world servers, me, and all of humanity on this earth, want to advance humanity as best as possible. Yeah, and we do that through the advancements of certain technologies. And that was done when we did the space program. So that is what's going to happen. I showed you this where by year 2025, we're actively back on the moon. And we have missions that are going back and forth. And we have other countries that are involved in that same process. And it keeps going and growing, you know, until the point to where we're actually having ships come and we're learning how to create fuel. And we're developing a way of a space platform for having ships come, like Elon Musk has these ships that can land up and down, go back to Earth and get refueled. Well, if they can go to the moon and get refueled, then the amount of travel, because it can land up and down, all other ships were like, they had to crash. They had to land in the ocean. There was nothing. Now we have a program to where we have ships that can put vertical and land softly and take off again and again and again, back and forth to Earth, which creates a perfect shuttle system for large systems that we would put together for building the rockets on the moon and putting fuel and everything and technology and advancements to get to that point. This all adds up. You know, just like you've seen in the space program, we now have these watches, we have these phones and everything. That all comes from the technological advancements at NASA. Everything. Yeah. So if we keep moving in this direction, we'll keep developing these things. So in developing these things, we get to automobiles that drive themselves. Yeah, which is a great thing. Yeah. And everybody goes, well, yeah, you know, cars, rich cars, you know, Rolls Royces, Cadillacs, Teslas, you know, drive themselves. But, you know, where's the average person? What about everybody else? You know? So I'm involved in a company called Arcimoto. And Arcimoto is involved in the process of bringing the technology of space program to Earth, to humanity. Yeah. So all the advancements in engineering in the space program is put into the Arcimoto. And we have front-wheel drive, dual motors, all this is set up in such a wonderful design. The way it's designed, so ergonomic in every way. You know, check this out. And I've showed you the Arcimoto over and over.
Make the most affordable, efficient EV for everyday driving. And we sat down, what is everyday driving? 90% of rides today have only 1 or 2 people in the vehicle. The average American only drives 30 miles a day. The medium trip distance is only about 3 to 5 miles. So we set out to design a vehicle that can check all those boxes. So the FUV has a top speed of 75 miles per hour. You can take it on the freeway, you can take it in the carpool lane by yourself. It has an EPA range of 102 city miles per charge. You crank it up to 55 miles an hour continuous without using the regen, you will get 60 miles of range. If you crank it all the way up to 75, you get about 35 miles of range. You can plug it into any standard wall outlet or level 2 charger. Heated seats, heated grips, starts at $17,900 before rebates and incentives.
There's a big problem with that, and that is that cars are built by companies that build millions of units a year. Changing their production lines is extremely difficult. And when we saw what Arcimoto had built, we knew that we could move very quickly. We knew it wasn't going to be a 6 to 8 year program. It was going to be a 2 to 3 year program to really get a vehicle that was designed to be safe, reliable, and could be made driverless from the chassis up.
Yeah, and from the very beginning, we were really chasing this modular type structure. We use the same thing at Atlas Motor Vehicles when we're moving through that. It's how do we minimize the total number of unique parts on the manufacturing line, and how do we modularize that whole manufacturing process. So what this allows us to do is to continue to build the Arcimoto down the line just like we would normally, and then with just a small kit, we introduce the faction equipment right in line without disrupting the manufacturing process. We're able to continue and roll and still maintain the quality and output that you would expect from the main line.
The faction system really takes up a small footprint in the back of the Arcimoto, and we pull less than 500 watts of power, including the actuators that are used to control the vehicle driverlessly. And so the power budget was incredibly important, because even if some of the big name autonomy companies showed up and offered to license us everything tomorrow, we literally couldn't physically fit the equipment on this type of chassis, and it would probably flatten the battery in less than an hour and a half.
Yeah, and you'd lose any kind of function, right? So the autonomous vehicle would just be for the sake of being an autonomous vehicle.
We're not here to build another research project, we're here to build a product.
So another huge aspect with the Arcimoto platform is this right-sized architecture. And one, it brings our overall energy demands down, our energy budget down, which also means we need far less hardware to even start that path of autonomous integration.
And I think this was a shared vision when we first met the Arcimoto team. When you start thinking about electric vehicles in general, the electric car is actually not a very good solution. Most people don't know this, but 90% of the battery energy in an electric vehicle typically goes to moving just the chassis, not the person or the payload on the vehicle. With this class of vehicle that Arcimoto's developed, it's more like 50-50.
One of the aspects of the faction system that I love so much is that power budget, right? And actually from an engineering perspective, we look at this and I want the best user experience, the most range, the most efficiency that I can get out of this. And when we look at other autonomous type platforms, we're talking kilowatts of energy that you're pulling off of my power budget. And that's quite literally miles off of the performance. And that's a much worse user experience. But when we look at factions architecture, we're now talking about watts, not even a full kilowatt of that compute that's happening on board. So this is a much more manageable system to integrate with the Arcimoto platform.
One of the things that we did recently was the program to go ahead and make modifications to the steering system. I think the thing that really impressed us about the modular design of the vehicle is everything we needed to touch for a drive-by-wire system that could be done safely and to make sure it was highly redundant is basically encapsulated in the front clip. We've even made steering modifications together over the last several months that we know we can take to production and gives us more reliability for high-speed driverless operations. All the electronics are all centralized up in the front. This architecture means that you can essentially take a driverless ready variant of this and marry it to a chassis on the same line that you're building your other variants. And that's unheard of in the vehicle industry. If you look at the urban footprint, the typical mission, it's 1 to 2 people, 3 to 5 miles. And I think one of the shared philosophies that Arcimoto's had, that Faction also subscribes to, is the car is almost reaching its useful life in urban transport. It's the wrong tool. And the future is going to be blended fleets. And having right-sized mobility with the Arcimoto platform is a great starting point, but there's a ton of other possibilities that we can go tackle together.
Yeah, the modern vehicle really is just the Swiss Army knife, right? It does so many things and it does none of them well, right? And you just got this big, horrible thing sitting in your pocket trying to deal with it. And now we're dealing with this big, horrible thing out on the road, right? And what do you do with it? Like I said, what most people do is they park it, right? Or they're like, oh, we're not going to go downtown to go eat, right? Because I got to deal with parking and everything. Guess what's really easy to park? I think we'll start seeing purpose-built vehicles in micromobility and mobility spaces where people start to realize, hang on, I don't need this 6,000-pound SUV and this big old pickup truck. Especially with the different variants that we offer with Arcimoto, you can actually still get work done with a flatbed or a box truck or a deliverator, right? And so now it's like, what do I actually use my vehicle for? Let's solve for that. And now you only pay for what you need and you're not paying for all the things that you don't.
When we looked at the numbers, if you look at just the gig worker deliveries in the last, year or so, like 2022, there's 1.8 billion deliveries were done between the top 3 delivery services. And they're primarily using people who are driving around in internal combustion cars.
And then we look at the overall acquisition cost required to get something like that. Let's say it's a piece of capital equipment for deliveries, or even just your gig worker type delivery. They're still buying those used internal combustion, because forget trying to afford a full electric, even a used, right? There's plenty of used Teslas on the road. Still, that acquisition cost for that to then use that for deliveries is also out of reach, right? Where with an Arcimoto platform, we're well within that initial acquisition price. As someone who works for a living can actually afford it.
When you look at everything that we've done together on these vehicles, everything's been designed for manufacturing. Everything's been one step further towards scale. And that's real. I think together, we're getting primed to do that now.
So naturally, with this partnership that we've announced, we've taken an equity stake in each other's companies, right? One, we both believe in each other's platform. We also see a very successful future with us working hand in hand. And though we've been working very closely together over the last 2 years, this really solidifies the availability, and frankly, an investment in Arcimoto is an investment in Faction now. And this truly is that rocket ship that's getting ready to take off. I know you guys didn't hear me say it, but here are the first murmurings of the engines kicking up, and then now it's time to get and join the ride.
I think we may be one of the few companies actually working together even that has driverless systems on the road today that have license plates, VIN numbers on them from the factory. Because as a three-wheel, electric vehicle, Arcimoto is essentially the leading manufacturer now in North America, and we're probably one of the only solutions that could actually fit on this class of vehicle.
Yeah, and as we see all the other autonomous companies really starting to struggle, close their doors, focus on other aspects, focus on the design or the R&D side of things, and frankly recoiling back and trying to figure out how to make it happen, we're out here actually doing it.
And that's a fact. Yep. And if you were to look online, Arcimoto, you'd see that a real struggle is going on, and that it's very difficult to build and create a manufacturing reality behind a vehicle like this and not be a big company. So it was a startup company that started back in around 2015. And by the time it got to last year, a year before that, its struggle was so bad it's ridiculous. And I got deeply involved in it because I saw that it could lose its ability to continue, and it might go bankrupt. So I began buying stock. I began buying Arcimotos. I now have 16 Arcimotos. Yeah, and they're going everywhere. We're putting them in Maui to create a rental company of 10 Arcimotos. We're putting them in Omaha. We're putting in Shambhala. We're putting them in Glastonbury. Yeah, so they'll be seen. People will know that they exist because they are the best vehicle on the planet for personal use. Yeah, and for moving things and doing things. Yeah, it's an incredibly functional vehicle. Yeah, and it's just not recognized yet. But I got these two people to come together, and that was just over the last year and a half. And they actually, the long-haired guy is a CEO, and he's an engineer that goes all the way back from NASA through all the electric car vehicle processes and everything. So that's all what's in charge of Arcimoto now. And the other guy is top of the line in the area of cars that drive themselves. So we literally have Arcimoto at a point right now to where the systems are going in and they can drive themselves. You can buy one that drives itself right now. Yeah, and you could buy them with big boxes on the back and all that. So the manufacturing hasn't been held up. Everything has been transitioned over into high gear and all the options that could be put into it, including self-driving. Yeah, and that's astounding. That's astounding. You can call up your Arcimoto and it will come to your door and pick you up and you go. Yeah. You can go to the office, and right in front of the office, you can have the Arcimoto go park itself in the parking lot. And when you get out, you just push your button and the Arcimoto will start up and come around and pick you up at the front door. Yeah. And this is real. This is what's going on today. This isn't Tesla. This isn't, some really fancy car. This is the highest level of engineering that's being going into something that make it possible for humanity to have a vehicle that is the perfect vehicle. Not more than what you need, only what you need. Yeah. So I'm definitely a big pusher for the Arcimoto. Yeah. So get one, get one. But the deal with what we have going on is the reality between homosexuality and humanity. Yeah. It is the action of homosexuality has such an enormous process of keeping the truth from manifesting. That's what it does. And it creates an alternative to that truth. Homosexuals say, we are the love inclusive group. Yeah, and you are the separative haters. Yeah, you people who hate homosexuals, homophobia. I mean, there's not a good side to us. We're put in the worst possible, and yet look who's doing it. They're stealing our kids. Every Catholic priest that raped a child raped a boy. A boy. Not a girl, a boy. Now, if it was a girl, that means that they were probably heterosexual, pervert, a rapist, a pedophile. But they didn't. They raped boys because they were homosexual, perverted, pedophiles. Part of the homosexual reality. Imagine, this has been going on in the Catholic Church for over 2,000 years. It's such an organized process to where everybody knows everybody's gay. They have retreats for the homosexuals so that they would not be such an open pedophile. They have to go to the retreat. They don't go to prison. They don't go to jail. They go to the retreat. It's a system not just for protecting homosexuals, but recruiting them. And in that process, it destroys society. It creates an unholy alliance with Satan in the church. In the church. Supposedly a holy alliance. But what happens if it goes into the government? And you have people like Biden and or Kamala Harris, who is, definitely a gay lady that's totally feminist and is on the side of every transgender. Let's kill the kids. Let's stop abortion over here, but let's do transgender over here. It's all just a show, a sham. You put a lady in charge of the news media in front of the president, and her process is that she is highly biased. So what happens if somebody from Africa who has laws against homosexuals, and you could just imagine if that news media person goes into the White House and wants to sit amongst that group of people that are allowed to listen to this secretary and speak their mind, ask their questions. Everybody but a guy who is against homosexuals. Everybody. Two guys sit up and say, well, don't bother her, wait your turn. He's waited 6 months. 6 months to even be asked a question. Every time he's there, he waits at the end, and he goes into the office where she is, her secretaries, and he asks again and again and again, can I please be given permission to ask a question? And the reason he can't is because the lady on the pulpit hates that guy. Hates him, literally hates him. She hates the leader of Africa. She hates anything to do with stopping homosexuality. She hates it.
Keep discriminating against some people in the briefing room because you don't like them, you don't like them.
So you have a choice.
No,
You have a choice. You have a choice.
A number of people
Okay.
in the briefing room, and I'm saying that that's not right. This is not China. This is not.
His choice is that he has to choose. Homosexuality is an available human right. And yet in his country, it is not. You will go to prison. You will die if you rape a young boy and you're a pedophile. They will kill you, period. And if you're a homosexual and you're caught, you will go to prison, period.
Russia. This is the United States. This is the White House. It's been 7 months. I sent you emails.
The rest of us are here too, pal.
It's been 7 months. You guys have not done anything for me.
So now he's trying to talk, and she's using the homosexuals in the audience to badger this man. Two gay guys get up, and one says, hey, you can't do that. You can't talk to her like that. And she, look at her face. She's going, yeah, we rule, we fight back. You will not talk. You will not ask a question as to why do we support transgender. You won't ask that question to me.
You should bring them to her later.
I have
Right
done
now,
that.
this is
I've
for the
done that.
entire
All my
press corps,
emails have been
and the
ignored.
press corps is tired of dealing with this. It is.
Those are gay guys talking in support to her, hating the black man from Africa who cannot stand homosexuals.
It's about you, Simon.
They won't allow him to talk.
All the time and you don't understand why
Even those guys shut him up.
months and being discriminated against. But there are people in the back
Look at
who
that.
don't get any questions.
Don't make assumptions about what the rest of us do. Mind your manners when you're in here. If you have a problem, you bring it up after.
Another queer. You know, I mean, it's just, it is what it is. So imagine you have queers that are willing to say shit that no one else is. They're evil. And they stand up, and all of a sudden you have evil speaking in the room, and you have to decide whether or not it's evil or not. And you've decided it's not evil. It's just different. A different view. Different view. And they want to make sure everybody's got that view. What happens? What happens if we follow this view? I'm telling you, you'll all be dead. And I won't do anything to save you. Not a thing. No one will. No one will. You did it to yourself. It's the worst thing. But it's done by women. In the end, if this ever works, it will be women who cause it to happen. Yeah? Because they will force a relationship of hating men. And if you make men into women, where are they going to have babies? Where are they going to have babies? Yeah. If you make women into feminists and lesbians, where are they going to have babies? Got to be a test tube thing. We're not there, folks. And yet you're head on. You want to make the children transgenders, and you want to make it so that they can't have any babies. Just look it up. Just look it up. No transgender female that goes through the transition of the hormone change to block hormones, it makes that female sterile. She can never have babies. Well, what if she wants a male to give her. Well, if that male happens to be gay and transgender and taking hormones to block hormone blockers, cut their penis off and their balls, how are they going to have babies? How are you going to have babies? They're crazy enough to tell you, you know, that a boy who really believes he's a girl can have periods and can have babies. But that's just a lie. Now you got to deal with it. You got to develop some kind of scientific proof of whether or not they're right. And this is crazy. It's crazy. So I'll show you what will happen.
Put 100 women and 10 men on a deserted island, and in 100 years, you'll have a thriving community of men, women, boys, and girls. Now put 100 trans women and 10 men on a deserted island. In 100 years, you will find the skeletons of 110 men. Let me break it down. In a world of confusion, ask yourself the critical question. If everyone was to live like this, will mankind continue to exist? If the answer is no, then this way of living is not suitable for mankind. It really is that simple, and don't let anyone fool you into thinking otherwise.
And that's a fact. Facts are simple. Facts are really simple. But 100 transgender women on an island with 10 men. Those men will not have sex with those guys. They're guys dressed up as women. Yeah, no, this ain't going to happen. And if they did have sex, what would come of it? No babies. One generation. All you'd have is skeletons on the island. And that's what we're going to have here. All you're going to have is skeletons left behind. No babies, no children, no families. They're all been completely destroyed. You know, and this is not a conspiracy, this is a fact. This is an absolute fact. If you follow this, this is their intention. They will infiltrate your schools and re-educate your children. Are they doing that? Yeah, they really are. This is not a suspicious movie claiming that things like this might happen. We are having it happen, and we're having to put bills out right now to slow it down and stop it in certain states. We'll revise medical opinion and outlaw gay healing therapy. They did that. We will redefine and reinvent the family and marriage. Yeah. They did that. And they wrote books that have to get into kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade to make sure that everybody's indoctrinated to know that boys marry boys and girls marry girls, and that's what a family is. And they all look at themselves and they go, how did they have babies? Any kind of awakening in that child becomes an extreme conflict, because the question always comes up. Their nature in life is to incarnate and reincarnate. In other words, they have to procreate. They need to help create humanity in the world, not destroy it. Then they go, we will remold the military, even reform the Boy Scouts. Well, we nearly closed the Boy Scouts because of it. We'll brand all who resist as bullies, homophobes, and haters. Even Jesus Christ. Even the Bible has to be banned. We'll own the courts and rewrite laws and skirt the voters' will. That we have seen. No question about it. That we have seen. We'll play the race card and link sexual urge and racial equality. Can you imagine? And that we have seen. Black Lives Matter. Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah. And it had nothing to do with Black Lives. Nothing. It's the same homosexual statement. It's equality. During the homosexual movement, where you can create banners of racial delusion, banners of, let's make it legal for a pedophile to be attracted to children by changing pedophile, because it doesn't sound good, into MAP. Minor, interested in minors, MAP. We'll own the courts, rewrite. We'll play the race card. We will discredit and religion and make it illegal to oppose us. They'll even put Satan on the court steps as a statue to go against the Ten Commandments. You'll sell us anything, anytime, no matter your conscience. If you want a gay pride cake, you are able to go to any bakery and say, make me a gay pride cake with all these gay pride symbols and flag and everything. Even if you're a highly religious person and have very strong opinion, you do not have a legal right. Your business will be closed. We'll uproot gender norms and even remodel restrooms. Yeah, happened. With media and celebs, we'll erase every sexual taboo. Yeah, these are all things in a game plan. And in that, it creates an enormous amount of delusions and confusions and every possible thing you can imagine inside of society. So it makes it really difficult for people to consider what's right or wrong. How many genders do we have? That's not even a question. But it does become a question when it comes down to what we're going to teach our kids. And that the people in the school don't believe in the parents because the people in the school are homosexuals. And the teacher is a lesbian or a gay man who dresses up in drag on weekends and weeknights. And they want to bring drag to your school. And they want to bring books for children into the school because they're the teachers. I didn't allow my kids to go to school, not a public school. I knew all this was going on and coming its way. And there was no way to monitor it. They won't allow us cameras in the school. They won't allow us to sit in the school, and I don't want to spend all day in a classroom, with all my kids. We're supposed to be in this together. But in reality, these teachers are changing the gender of the children. They're having them be in a room with men who are masquerading as overwhelmingly sexual objects in female drag. And trying to get the children to dress in drag too. Making them think that this is just entertainment and fun. Don't you want to play? Same thing with transgender. They get on YouTube and they say, hey kids, come up here. Come on over to the TV. Listen to me. There are more than one gender. You may be a little boy there, little Johnny. But you're probably a girl if you think about it. Do you have any of these feelings? Those are feelings of a girl. Isn't that great? I told you the truth. That's what they do. I can show you hundreds of transgender men, all in makeup, talking to little kids on YouTube, saying, come to the screen. Don't tell your mommy. Don't tell your daddy. This is a secret. We are friends, secret friends. And then they go to school, and their teacher is saying the same thing. Same thing. They get right in their face. They even take them into a room where they can offer them gender clothing change, where little girls who are building and developing their body have breasts are given wraps to go around their breasts so that they can become more male until they get their gender changed. This is real reality. This is happening. This is happening. There are a lot of parents going to school meetings complaining, going, hey, my kid came home with this and doing this. And the teachers are keeping it from us. They're telling the kids not to tell the parents. And yet, what are we supposed to do? We have to go to work. We're supposed to trust the school. But you can't, because the school is governed by the government. And the leaders of the government are homosexuals. And their whole focus is to get into politics. Don't get angry, get elected. That's their thing. And, you just, right now, you're not capable yet to vote wisely. But you're going to. And we should not have Biden in office. We should not have Kamala Harris back in office. We need to find people who believe that Trump did not win. Transgenders is a mental illness. Homosexuality needs to be treated, and it's affecting the world of humanity. Religion should be considered as a rule in relationship to God and Jesus the Christ. And those rules should be followed daily. Whether you're in the government, you're running a business, or you're a police officer. The purpose of Jesus the Christ, the purpose of God setting rules, is to save you from yourself, from your selfishness, from Satan. So you must follow the rules. But right now, all the rules are being outlawed as being hateful against things that are happening in the world that are only based on homosexuality. Only. So you must not ever vote another person in if you find out that they're gay. You must investigate every single way you can to find out if they're gay. And choose your electorals according to their homosexual reality. And find out what their views are in relationship to health, education, and regular welfare, such as food stamps, helping the community, taking care of business. Rather than some delusionary reality that human rights are at stake here and transgender is necessary. We need officials who will go into schools and fire all the teachers who are homosexual. Every single one. And whether it be in college, high school, junior high school, elementary school, kindergarten. None. Every single one. And to do that, you have to elect people that will do it. These are elected officials. School board is elected officials. Your community is elected officials. Your mayor, your city council, your police officer, the chief of police. Elected city officials. Don't allow them to be gay. Get them out of office. Because their main goal, don't fight back, get elected. You have to fight back by keeping them from being elected. And they will never enter back into the school. There will never be another drag queen situation where your husbands are off at the bar watching drag queen, or RuPaul is on air for 11 years. Get out. How many fags are out there sitting in a living room with their husbands and their wives, living a deluded life, completely perverted, willing and accepting men to dress up in drag and watch RuPaul and not be disgusted? It only stays on the air because you elect to watch it. And they get money from every person who watches it, from all the different media and publishing and advertisement. You're electing it. All the things you watch on TV, all the things you see in movies, you choose, you elect. That's why it's there. You can't do this. You have to choose. You must choose. You have to choose, and you have to relate to the reality of what I'm talking about. These people are truly set to destroy the earth. And all of humanity and every child that's on it, and every child that's to reincarnate. It's the goal. It's the outcome. The outcome. And we can change that. We can alter it dramatically. We just have to not follow. You have to realize what I'm saying is the truth. And you're going to get a better world. Your mind isn't going to be confused of thinking, oh, I had to pay $80,000, $90,000 for a vehicle that is electric and save me money. It's not true. It's not what's really going on in the world. I'm building Arcimoto and other things that are extremely economical and do things for you that you cannot imagine. But the fear and the delusion and the process that comes from demons inside of people to lie and corrupt the soul. Just watching TV will do that to you. Just watching TV. Beyonce's a big one. How many people elected Beyonce? The demon. She's no angel. She's a demon. And they're all over the place with our children. Imagine you're a mother and father, you're a grandmother or grandfather, you have a 25-year-old daughter and son, and they're at a concert of Satan. And you can't do anything about it. And there's nothing you could say or do to make a change in their attitude. Satan worshiping drag queen teaching children at local libraries. And look at the face on that creature. And look at the face on the creature next to it. pretty dang similar. And nobody's putting up a painting of the demon of hate for this guy to paint himself to look like. But I am. I am exercising this planet. The whole freaking planet. You may think that's outside the realm of anybody. Nope. Not at all. Not me. This is my planet. I created this planet. My Father and I are one. We created this planet. We created you. There's purpose behind everything. The fall, it happened. The fall is happening. And the disgrace of humanity has happened. But we are going to let it all go. We're going to forgive everybody. And we're going to exorcise demons. And they're going to come right out in the open. And you're going to see them. You're going to see them. And they're going to try and push drag queens in your schools, and they're going to teach your little children, they're going to do everything in the library. They do it. They do it. Yeah. It's like, what is keeping that from happening? It's not about keeping it from happening. It's about Christ externalizing the demons. They externalize. They manifest. The thing in demons is that they hide behind, and they don't like to make too much noise. So you'll blame other things. Yeah, you'll be deluded and confused. You won't be able to know what's going on. But this process, these demons, they're being exercised. Just like Trump is being exercised. Just like Russia is being exercised. Today, we have in Russia a series of events that are taking place. This is, I'll show you this one. This is a process that's happening with Trump right now. And this is the externalization of his demons, right? So how that happens is that the demon controls the physical, mental, and emotional body of the subject. Even if it's Satan. Even if it's Satan. Because Satan is ruled by the dominion. So Satan is a creature that's manifested by demonology, by demons. Yeah. So Satan is the head demon, right? But inside of Satan is all the demons. So they literally rule Satan. He has no control over anything. They rule him. But he has no awareness of that because Satan is completely obsessed in Satan. Yeah. So he's consumed in that. Yeah. And there's no real way people know of how to get that to externalize, because these demons go into people. Yeah, and then they become homosexual, they become sodomites, they become lesbians, they become warmongers, they become haters, they become Putin, they become all these different things. But what they're not aware of is that the externalization of the demon puts those people in prison. Yeah, they can't control it. So right now, Trump has so many different laws that he's broken. He's going to court, to 6 different courts. One, a lady he raped, openly raped. He's charged $5 million and he can't get a person to play bond. Nobody will cover his bond. Nobody. No company, nobody will cover his bond. That's a sad thing. That's an externalization of a demon. Yeah. And he gets on reviews and talks to people on the interview, and he literally confesses everything you can possibly imagine. He talks about how he took documents that were so absolutely guarded by secret that no one is to see, and he's got them in his hand. No one is to see them, and he hands them out. Yeah, so he could show that he has this much power. And you could see them now because he had the power. And he openly says this, and there's documents and video and audio verifying the whole event. And so what was going on was that they really had a hard time getting into the court and actually being able to criminally charge him for doing what he just did. What he literally, espionage, taking secrets and showing them to people. Nuclear warfare, Iran, Iraq, you name it, just showing off. Well, that in itself is espionage. That is a big treason, and it can't be unjustified. Yeah. He cannot say I didn't do it. Yeah. So they're going, holy crap. We actually are going to win now. We weren't going to win. We were actually going through a process to where we were going to work out a deal, and he probably was never even going to go to court for it. We'd just have to work out a deal. And that's exactly what was happening. But it ended. What happened was that the people from his side, his attorney, gathered everything that they had, video files, audio files, all kinds of stuff, and just put it in a box and sent it over to them. And they started looking at him going, are you kidding? They showed us this? He said that? He did this audio file, that video file? Yeah, and then they showed justification after every single thing that's said is shown on a video file and an audio file and pictures. They're just going, I don't believe this. Okay, we're going to go back in, and now we are literally filing everything. And we're going to tell them, we have this information. You gave it to us. And for that reason, you're going to go to prison. No question about it. Just under this. This is the very first thing we're taking to court for. You're going to prison. The other thing we took you to court for, you already lost $5 million. Nobody will give you bond. Those are the externalizations of demons. He's doing it himself. The demons are so stupid. They only elaborate, right? They're prideful, okay? So they elaborate exaggeration after exaggeration, thinking they'll never get in trouble for it because they're a demon. And they think everybody else has got demons in them. So they're a cult. But he's not a cult anymore. And there's a lot of people calling him out. And the demons are starting to externalize because I'm forcing them to keep talking. Keep talking. Find yourself another avenue and get talking, because we're not done yet. You have until the end of August to say 1 million things to get you in prison forever. And he was going to do that. That's what I'm doing. That is what I'm doing. Yep. And I did the exact same thing in Moscow to Putin. His very closest friend, the biggest oligarch in Russia, who runs the military of people you buy in order to be military, right? This enormous large group of military-like people that are all paid to be military, and they go in and they be a part of the military, but they're on payroll. You know, so this guy's like in charge of that. A big operation, really big. Well, he, according through me, I exercised his demons, and now he sees Putin as a threat. And literally, the soldiers on Putin's side are shooting at his people. So he got really ticked off and went to war with Putin. Today, he went to war with Putin. And he actually is taking over Moscow. Today, right now, he's taking over Moscow. And Putin is not in Moscow. He's running. Totally freaked out.
convoy had been heading towards Moscow in what Vladimir Putin had described as an attempted mutiny. Well, Prigozhin said his troops had advanced 200 kilometers towards the capital in just the last 24 hours. Well, in his nightly address, Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, said that his counterpart in Russia was running scared.
The man from the Kremlin is obviously very afraid and probably hiding somewhere, not showing himself. I am sure that he is no longer in Moscow. He knows what he is afraid of because he himself created this threat.
That's my work. On a daily basis, I've got this going on. I've got the President of the United States and every freaking fag in the government turning tail, freaking out. The lady who's the secretary in charge of being a secretary is freaking out because there's a guy who's anti-transgender, anti-gay, from a country that is totally anti-gay, and she will not call on him. She won't do it because she's freaking out. She's not in charge. She has no power and she can't fight back. She's freaking out. And I'm bringing that out in the open. That you are such a weak feminist lesbian, so weak and out of control by demons. We're taking over. Even the little guy in the back of the room who's from a little tiny African country, he's gonna get himself heard on TV and hit you and affect you in ways you never thought was possible. Just by him opening his mouth, finally getting to open his mouth. And all the gay guys stand up and say, oh, you can't do that, you got to behave. Yeah, don't you think they would say that? Yeah. So it's whether it be Trump, whether it be Putin, whether it be the President of the United States, Biden, and his little cohort, you know, the whole thing is coming down like a house of cards. And by the time this time next year, I will have created such a scenario of your awakening, your understanding, because the exorcism is taking place. Yeah, you will have dreams, you will have understanding, you will receive Jesus Christ in your heart, because I'm not allowing anybody to go by. I'm putting myself into the heart of Trump. And he is a babbling idiot right now. A babbling idiot. He can't help it. And Satan would love to control him, but he can't. Just the way it is. Yeah. So all of this is in turn to the reality of change. Everybody thinks we're going to go to Mars. All this is going to happen. None of that is really happening. I showed you that we're going to the moon. Every country has made plans to do so. All our money is in that. All our projects are in that. So we have great hope over the advancements of technology and humanity and engineers. People that need hope, people that need to go into this service, into the space program. But not Mars. Not Mars. Yep. So this is happening. Completely opposite of what you think is happening. Yeah? So tell your kids, you know, don't go to Mars. There's another job waiting for you. You know, look online. Look for the moon missions, moon programs. Sign up. Yeah? And we will have a better world with a lot of happy people, because you're never going to go to Mars. They'll sign you up, but it happened before. They signed everybody up and they all lost their wives and their, you know, because who wants to be married to a dead person in Mars? Don't sign up to something like that. It's never going to happen. And it never happened to them. They signed up, they lost their families, and they never went to Mars. They just followed a cult. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So let's do a puja and hope that everybody gets a little bit more awakening every night, every day. Okay, so just relax. We do the Om about every 10 seconds. Just follow my Om. Try and do it fairly loud so it reverberates in your body. It makes a big difference. Yeah. Don't worry if anybody can hear you. That does not matter. You know, the main thing is that you can feel the vibration of the Om that you're resonating in your head. When you go Om, you literally can feel it. You could feel it. So you want to feel it. That's the purpose of it. When you do that, you stop thinking, you're focused on your feeling. Yeah? And the vibration, the sound. Yeah? And that allows you to control the sound of that Om and not worry about it. You know, just let it come out. We do that every 10 seconds. And what happens from that? We're creating a connection between us. Soul is a collective body. Collective. You know, if we are in the soul, which is the Christ, if we are in the soul, then we have a collective consciousness. Yeah, and the teachings of Christ are very easily understood and followed as a guideline, as a direction, as an understanding, as a way shower. Yeah. So the process of the Om is to bring about the original sound in the Om. Yeah. When that comes into the body and the person does Om, we're doing this about every 10 seconds. So figure after about 10 of those, you know, you're creating an oscillating vortex up and down your body. You're not doing Kundalini, you're not messing with your chakras, none of that. Yeah. But it does create an oscillating vortex up and down your body. Yeah. And as that continues, that oscillating vortex goes up and out. And we have many different levels of this planet. Yeah. And some of the highest levels of the planet is called the noosphere. And that's where the consciousness of God is located. And the working out of the plan is located there, in the higher consciousness of the planet. Yeah. So when we do this Om, we're tapping into that. Yeah. And it's actually located on the very outer edge of our atmosphere. Yeah, there's a vibrational integration of consciousness that is located on the outer edge of our planet. And that's the noosphere. And we can all tap into that. And when we do, we support the planet. The different stratosphere, the geosphere, the different levels of the planet all get supported. So our meditation is bringing light from God into the planet. Yeah? And not just looking at the planet, not just looking at this and that, but simply knowing that God is above. God is above, literally above. God is in the sky. Yeah? And we bring God down. And when we meditate, we ascend up to meet with God. And in the Om, we're doing this, we are meeting with God. So I set the pujas up so that you can listen to God's voice and you can hear God's words. And that's very difficult because most people never hear God's words. So when we're in meditation, we're more open to this process, not in a programming way, but in an open mind way. So our consciousness could be moved by higher mind, higher consciousness, our own true self, a higher self. And it becomes a collective consciousness. Yeah. A large collective consciousness. Yeah. And this is what saves humanity. This is the saving grace that comes into humanity that raises up all sentient beings, no matter what they've done in life. It is a forgiving light that comes into humanity and exorcises out the demons and increases the light of the angel within. That's all my pujas. That's all they're for. And when I ask you to do puja with me, and I ask you to do the meditation and do Om every 10 seconds, I'm doing that because it activates this reality that we're in. And it really is a science. Yeah, it's not an old Eastern science or anything, but we will find in the future, prayer works. And prayer is above, just like Jesus says. And you bring that prayer into you. And you have to go up into it when you make that prayer. Yeah. So you raise yourself up. You go into his best of awakening state in your meditation, in your prayer. Yeah. And it makes a big deal. It makes a big change. It's an offering. Yeah. So that comes back to earth as an offering to the group. Because you're a member of the group. Yeah. So you receive blessings when you do this, but those blessings are immediately transmitted into the earth and to every living thing. Yeah. Because where I come from, rocks have souls. Trees have souls. Yeah. And if you behave the way you do and give imperil to this earth and gain so much stupidity, it's a symptom of no soul. And that means no soul in the rock. So when you walk this earth, you're not being blessed. And yet you're supposed to be. That's a sacred planet. The rocks bless you. The trees bless you. The animals bless you. They talk to you. The animals can't talk. Ants communicate. Bees communicate. All animals communicate. You just don't know this. Plants communicate. Plants scream with pain every time you cut them. You cut the carrot, you cut the vegetable, every one. They all cry. They all scream. It's just true. It's just true. Who wants to hear that? Yeah, nobody. But it's the truth. Everything is sacrificed. And you have to have an abundance of better understanding. To know, you, in order to be harmless, you need to do the right things that I'm trying to move you to do. Because you can't imagine how much harm goes into the world through farming. Farming. You'd think, whoa, provide food for the world and all that. Farming doesn't provide food for the world. It provides food for corporations to sell to the world. You'd be better off teaching a hungry person how to fish than give them a bunch of fish. And it's not about teaching them how to farm. It's about teaching them what it is you're actually supposed to eat. And what is healthy in relationship to that. We're in the year 2023, and we have very little understanding of the human reality, let alone spiritual reality of any kind. So I'm cleaning that up dramatically. And that is grace. You don't have to do the work. I'm doing it for you. And through that work, it goes into you as though you did the work. So say 3 years from now, all of a sudden, you find yourself living a keto life. And you didn't do anything, say anything, ask anybody, read any book, or what. It just came about. It's natural. It's a soul. Collective consciousness. And the world gets more like that as time goes on. How we work technology, how we deal with things, it's even built into it. Cars drive themselves, imagine that. You need something done, communicate it. And it gets done. But you need to have all these things in place. You can't be following a delusion. You can't be following the Pied Piper. You can't be following down the rabbit hole. You can't be thinking transgender is even a possibility. You cannot accept homosexuality. Because every single person has to choose not to be gay. You're not even supposed to masturbate. Because it makes you gay. You don't need to masturbate. Because it's lust. That's all it is. It's like going out and getting a donut. You don't need the donut. It's lust. Go out and buy a 6-pack of beer. You don't need the beer. It's lust. Yeah. Go out and rape somebody, beat somebody, molest somebody, be a pedophile. All the same. Without a soul, that shit's going to continue. With a soul? Nope. Nope. Literally leads people to go get their tattoos taken off. You don't have to write a book and you don't have to get on a pulpit. I'm taking care of business. I will put Trump in prison. I will put Putin in prison. You just have to hang in there. And I'm doing it really fast on a day-to-day basis. You won't go through the rest of this year without enormous changes in the world that stops the destruction of planet Earth and turns it toward a sacred planet. So remember your Om. Every time we do the Om, we're focusing on God. And every time we do it, every 10 seconds, it becomes a pulse. And it radiates up because we're thinking in higher mind. We're raising ourselves up into the noosphere. You're ascending. And you're receiving the blessing by doing this puja. And that transmission that comes into you is transmitted through you and into the earth. And all the bees and the birds and all the beautiful things that I've created are going to be okay. Yeah. I know you care, but this is reality. We have to bless the earth for the birds to stop falling out of the sky. We have to bless the earth for the earthquakes and the tornadoes to go away. We have to do this, or bugs will cover towns and cities and moss. That's what I'm doing. I'm exercising this planet, and I'm bringing shit right out in the open. I cover the mosque in bugs. I have cities covered in bugs right now. And people don't know what to do. And it's a purging. It's a purging. And the next day they wake up and they're better. Yeah, it's just a purging. Every animal, every element, every rock, every stone, every tree matters. And I'm making sure that everything of Earth is having a part to play in the process of this externalization and healing of demons. Even the insects are controlled by demons. Planes that crash are controlled by demons. There are no accidents. So doing this Om creates a pulse that transmits into every single kingdom and allows humanity to become caretakers, blessing the world by living a holy life. Okay? So let's enjoy.
am a messenger of light. I am a pilgrim on the way of love. I do not walk alone, but I know myself as one with all great souls, and one with them in service. Their strength is mine. This strength I claim. My strength is theirs, and this I freely give. A soul, I walk on earth. I represent the One.
Okay, take a deep breath.
The past has gone. I am that past. It makes me what I am. The future comes. I also am the coming destiny, and therefore I am that. The present flows from out the past. The future colors that which is. I make the future also by my present knowledge of the past and the beauty of the present. And therefore I am that I am. Within the circle of the will of God I stand. Without the radius of the world of glamour, I take my place. And there I stand. Before the open door that just reveals a different lighted way, I take my stand. Before the presence, I will take my place, and there will firmly stand. And stand I see. path. Love is the substance of our living in the world. Love is the light and the light of freedom from all creatures. Love pulses through the universe in a divine rhythm. Love is the consciousness of God. May the holy ones whose disciple I am show me the light I seek. May all mankind, may all humanity of all knowledge, may all light on earth make manifest the soul in all things, all life. I invoke the radiant golden sun to manifest the thread of the soul into the kingdoms of the elementals, into the kingdoms of the vegetables, the animals, into the astral plane. I invoke all humanity to become the caretakers of the kingdom of God. I invoke the will of God as the soul. I stand before the judgment seat of my soul. I am that soul. All love and light am I. I serve the world and lose myself in service. This is my life, and this is the way that I will tread until the day be with us all. I invoke the awakening in the consciousness of humanity, the family of humanity, to bring forth points of energy within themselves, inaugurating certain new techniques in work and in modes of communication. I invoke the group of telepathic communicators. I invoke the group of trained observers. I invoke the group of magnetic healers. I invoke the group of the educators of this new age. I invoke the group of political organizers. I invoke the group of the workers in the field of religion. I invoke the group of scientific servers. I invoke the group of psychologists. I invoke the group of financiers and economists. I invoke all creative workers as the new group. I invoke the externalization of the inner existing of conditions within these groups You're the manifestation and the externalization of the avatar. Okay, just relax. Okay, open your eyes. Okay, so there is a lot going on, and it's beyond anybody's understanding as to what is going on. But what you'll get is a clearer point of revelation as I teach, and you'll be able to see the things in the world that reflect what I'm teaching. Yeah, I'm telling you, Trump is who I say he is, and he's going to go to jail for it. All the things that he has done wrong have to be placed in court and never happen again, such as treason or January 6th and the harming of all the officers and everybody that was there to protect the Capitol, and how literally the Republicans turned against democracy and charged the Capitol. Absolutely amazing. It shall never happen again. Strength and courage is what keeps us from following a cult. There are thousands of cults on earth right now. Thousands. That means everybody's in a cult. Somewhere, somehow, you're in a cult. Whether it be your job, your family, your religion, your dogma. All has to be healed. There can be no cults. Yeah. We are here as children of God. That is not a cult. That is a very sacred act. And we are here to act accordingly and receive accordingly what God has given us and what is God providing us on His earth. And everything from here on out is under God's grace and blessings. And everything will be dropped and let go of that is not of God's blessings. It'll happen naturally. No wars, no violence. There will be laws. There will be restrictions, because how it happens is by obeying God's laws. It's a simple act of following Jesus the Christ. Enjoy. Please do your best. Yeah, enjoy every